As an Arminian theologian, I'm often asked why I don't embrace open theism. Open theism, of course, is the belief that God does not know the future exhaustively and infallibly, because he's chosen not to. According to open theists, God created the world with free will in it, and voluntarily chose not to know what we would do with our free will. So it was a risk that God took. I can agree with some of that. As an Arminian, I certainly believe in free will, and I believe that God created us with free will but knew the future. So my open theist friends challenge me on that and ask if I'm not contradicting myself. How can I believe that God knows the future exhaustively and infallibly? That is, everything that's going to happen, including our misuses of our free will in the future. And at the same time believe that the future contains acts that we will make in the future with our free will. There is a mystery there, I admit it. I cannot explain how God foreknows what I am going to do with my free will in the future, because it's not already determined by anything. I will determine it by my use of free will. The reason that I don't embrace open theism, which in some ways fixes that problem, is because the Bible seems to me to indicate that God does know the future, exhaustively and infallibly. Not only does God prophesy the future, but there are examples in Scripture, such as Jesus knowing about Peter's denial of him before it would happen. He knew that Peter would deny him 3 times before the cock would crow. How could Jesus have known that, unless he, as God, knew the future exhaustively and infallibly? So I happen to believe that there is a mystery here, but it's one that I can live with, and that is that God knows the future completely, perfectly, infallibly, and comprehensively, but that we still have free will, and God is not determining our future actions and decisions. I'm also influenced by tradition. I happen to believe that the Church Fathers and the Reformers are very important after Scripture in terms of authority, and that we should not break with what they believed unless it's absolutely necessary in light of a new interpretation of Scripture. So I am reluctant to go against tradition, and Christian tradition has always said that God knows the future exhaustively and infallibly, including Arminius and John Wesley, and all the great Arminians of the past of history have believed that. However, I don't think that open theism is a heresy. I'm open to open theism. It's a conversation I like to have. I enjoy talking about it with my open theist friends. I consider them Arminians too, though there is that one difference between them and Arminius and John Wesley and other Arminians. Nevertheless, I embrace them as fellow Christian believers, even if I disagree with them about the future and whether God knows it or not.